Uh, Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the table, and welcome back to what's going to be another campaign of complete and utter madness and insanity. In the last campaign, everyone died, and everything went cocks, tits, and balls terrible. So,
Cocks, tits, and balls. Terrible.
yep. So
It's
we
okay because
have.
those characters are dead now.
Yeah, they're all dead, and everything is healed, and everything is fine, and we have some new characters with us. But we're sticking to the same world. Both of the players and our new player as well decided that we would be sticking in the same universe and playing a different campaign within the world that we had started to create. So our players are Monsieur Toad, who will be hosting this. We have 50 Foot, who was our previous mass murderer, who is going to play nice this time, he says. And joining us as well, yeah, see that giggling in the background, that says he's not going to play nice. And
Yeah.
joining us as well, we have Vagabond. Vagabond is a friend of the group, and he's joined us. It's his first time doing tabletop RPG, so this is going to be great. I will endeavor to break him as soon as possible. I'm a horrible man. And we are starting on the planet Ipton. So,
Ipton, famous for their many soups.
famous for their many, many soups. Um,
Mostly chicken noodle.
That was great. That was, yeah.
yep, definitely. Okay, so the what we'll do is I'll start by sort of just describing and sort of talking about where you found yourselves, and then each of you can sort of tone in with your idea of sort of how you got there and who you are, basically. So you find yourselves in the slum colony, or the slum sector of a colony that used to be owned by Challenger Incorporated. And Challenger Incorporated abandoned it when their interest on the planet of Ipton kind of fell through. After about sort of 40 years of supporting this section of the colony, they have backed out of it and left and taken all the useful people with them. And that was probably about 30 to 40 years ago itself. And this has resulted in what has come to be known as the Challenging Slums. In the center of the Challenging Slums stand the three original towers that were the core of the Challenger Incorporated colony sector and were the corporate buildings of Challenger Incorporated on the planet of Ipton. They stand roughly 20 stories tall. They're beautiful, shining beacons of technology and development and colonial planning, and they are falling to pieces, and they are broken down, and they are being kept running by industrious engineers and structural workers who live in the slums. Spreading out from those is the actual colony itself, which is a set of primarily metal-based buildings. And then as that core colony spread and the slums started to expand, you had buildings made of scrap metal and buildings made of stone, buildings made of brick, and the slums has expanded out and spread. Now, as you can imagine, with a colony that was quite sizable when it started, there was provision for food manufacturing and item manufacturing. This led on to a provision for mining and a provision for industrial works. And these are spread around the outside of the slums. To the west side, you have the water mines, which go down into frozen water reservoirs underneath the planet's surface and draw it up to feed the farms which grow alongside the water reservoir mines. On the other side, you have the metal mines and the industrial manufacturing to the east, and the slum has spread itself north and south into a massed colony. This has become the home of people who are without a corporation, without a job within the corporations, and an awful lot of people have flocked in the colonies, or this particular area of the colonies. Population has become very itinerant. People come and go, in and out, changing who is there and who isn't. Currently in charge of the Challenging Slums are three groups that fight and vie for control. You have the Balar, the Drazni, and the Worker Party. and each one of them owns one of the three central towers. They own one of the three central towers each, not by any sort of agreement, but simply because when one of them started to make inroads into owning a central tower, the other two groups couldn't let them have all three, because that would have been losing face. And so the three groups had a little private war among themselves about who would own the three towers, and it ended up with the amicable solution of one tower belonging to each of the three groups.
Okay.
And you find yourselves here in the challenging slums. So why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are?
Who's going first?
I'll let you.
Yay!
Not it.
Not it.
Not
Nice.
it.
Okay. So, I am playing the character of Thomas Netz Bylock. So, Thomas is a low-gravity worker who, after a contract, is now finding himself unemployed and not wanting to continue working for the companies. He's got a little bit of an ambition to spread out on his own, got a bit of an entrepreneurial spirit, wanting to start his own business. But before he can do so, he's got to get back on his feet because he's been on a long-term contract and housed by the corporations. So falling back on a, I guess, previous friend, probably more of an acquaintance, that he knew in school and is the only one who hadn't changed their contact information, he finds himself housing at the residence of 50's character, which I will need his name because I don't know it.
All right. Name is John Bomber.
John Bomber. Okay.
Yeah. I used to work for one of the main corporations. Not going to state which one, but I ended up screwing things over with them, trying to attempt espionage on another one of the main corporations and having cast out of the corporate society. Ivan Black flagged and nobody's going to touch me, and I'm kind of tilted about that, so I'm trying to get back at him. Dude, can you stop making the dice spin?
Isn't that awesome? I can make it like orbit each
How?
Oh
other.
yeah, definitely.
How though?
Just touching my mouse wheel. I made
But
it
yeah,
work.
anyways, I'm tilted about that. I'm trying to get back at all the corporations for generally being douchebags.
Okay. And Mr. Vagabond. Shall we
Alright,
hear a
so
little
my
bit about you?
character's name is Snarbly Wolf. As you may have guessed by his name, he's not a very smart man. He can't read. He's kind of forgetful, and he lacks a pretty big vocabulary. If you ask him to give you a compliment, he won't use words like bodacious or amazing or awesome. He'd probably just use good, maybe great. He's age 29, so he's a little bit past his prime. If you look at him, he's somewhat well built, and he happens to wear this wooden mask, which he believes has magical powers if he wears it. From what you can tell, he probably doesn't have any known living relatives, and he basically came to town looking. It's like he was wandering all over the place looking for some petty work like heavy lifting, some simple button pressing, and probably just bouncer work like beating the crap out of people. And that's why he came to town, just to make a living.
And beat the crap out of people. Or by beating crap out of people. Okay.
Okay, so
What a misfit gang are we?
yes, so Mr.
Yeah.
John, Mr. Thomas, and Mr. Snarblerwolf.
Just call me Nets.
Net's Bomber and Wolfie. That sounds like a really
Hey, I'm
bad
actually cool with that. Do that.
cartoon. That sounds like a really bad kids
Yeah.
cartoon.
It does, and we're keeping it. We're keeping it.
Okay, so you have arrived and you found yourself living in the slums and working in the slums. And of course, one of the problems with living and working and doing anything is that you require money to live. So you require work. Now, you could go and see if you could get a job with one of the corporations. It's not particularly easy to get a job with a corporation, especially when you've been disenfranchised from them. But you could go and see if you could get a job at the corporations, or you could have a look around for work within the slums. Mr. Snarblewolf has found himself in the employ of the Balar Group, which is one of the 3 groups that run the slums. He does odd jobs. He works with the farmer groups to do sort of heavy lifting and farming and crop gathering. He also works for them as an occasional bouncer, doing the odd bit of bouncing work at some of the slum markets.
Like beating the shit out of people.
And every now and then he just the Balar group needs someone given a quick smack, and Mr. Snarblewolf, or Wolfie as he's affectionately known, is sent round with the order to go and give that one a smack, because that's about as far as Wolfie's vocabulary allows him to understand. As to Mr. Nets and Mr. Bomber, you're both basically trying to find work at the moment. And the group, the local sort of controlling groups, know a little bit about Mr. Bomber's past. They know that he's an ex-corporate guy. They also know that he has no particular love of the corporations. He doesn't necessarily hide that. And so one evening with Mr. Nets and Mr. Bomber, they get a visit from a gentleman who they recognize instantly is a member of the Balar Group, and quite a sort of specialist member of the Balar Group to a certain extent. The Balar have a set of enforcers who patrol the slums that are owned by the Balar and make sure nothing gets particularly out of hand. These enforcers are given kind of the cream of the crop as far as it comes to equipment, and they're pretty much instantly recognizable. And they're pretty much instantly recognizable as enforcers for the Balar Group. They wear a Nets, hello Nets. They wear a armored, reinforced suit, and they don't tend to wear the helmets. But if they feel that they're going to have issues with people using chemicals on them, they tend to wear the helmets.
Oh, that is sweet.
It's an armored jacket, an armored sort of underjacket, and a rebreather apparatus, and they tend to carry weapons with them. And one of them visits Mr. Bomber and Mr. Nets to invite the 2 gentlemen down to come and visit the Balar Group in the Western Tower. You get the feeling that the invitation isn't exactly optional.
Mm-hmm.
Considering one of the enforcer officers has been sent to come and encourage you to visit the Balar holdings. You've written Snarblewolf on the table.
And crossed out his
Okay.
own name. That's
Yeah.
great. And I did a name tag.
Yeah.
And 50 is just 50.
Yeah.
So
My
what can you
my
say?
my thingy won't cooperate, so I'm just leaving it for now.
Fair enough.
So sad for his
Um,
girlfriend, aka his hand.
I see you mean
So sad for his
my
girlfriend
hand.
because his thing you won't cooperate. Oh dear.
Okay,
Well,
but yes,
yeah,
this
have
guy
you-
has, without his helmet, come to pay us a visit, and it's not 100% optional to join him on his traverse back to the company house. Okay.
So, are you willing
So,
to attend? Is there?
Has he just like knocked on the door, or has he let himself in, or like did we invite him in when he showed up, or is he just like, yeah, I'm here, you're coming with me?
So he turns up at the slum door. I'm assuming Mr. Bomber keeps his door locked, considering the kind of man he is.
Yes. Yeah.
So you hear a kind of thud, 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 thud on the door. It's quite insistent and determined sound of someone hammering on the door.
Okay.
Well, it's your residence, Bomber Dude. I'll
Yeah,
let you
I
take it.
will. Uh,
I just sit
who's out
back
there?
on, I guess, my bedroll because we're in the slums.
I'll. I'm seeing as how I'm not gonna open up the door. I'm just gonna. I'm gonna yell through what they want.
Peer through one of the cracks in the wall.
Yeah, I don't have any cracks in my door.
Oh, you got a happy
No.
house. Okay. So,
It's secure if poor.
So
so he yells through the door.
so he yells through the door, and he's Mr. 50 sort of or Mr. Bomber yells through the door and basically asks who it is, and the reply is it's Balar, which are the name of one of these major groups that looks after the slums. One of our gentlemen would like to speak to you.
They're
Quick
gentlemen
question.
now.
Yes, Vagabond?
The background image in the middle of the in the center of the table. Where is that
Yes.
from?
It is from a sci-fi artist.
Oh, cool.
Mhm.
Anyway, continue.
Okay, so I'm over here in this, and
Okay,
I
what
look
is?
over at your direction, Bomber. I was like,
Yeah.
what are we doing with this? Why would they be
Uh,
bothering us here? Like, I
oh,
just got off
how
a
many
ship.
people? Yeah, I have no idea. I'm gonna. How
What
many
sort of
people are out
trouble
there
are you
with
in?
you right now? I'm just shrugging at you and hoping this guy gives us more answers. Who's all out there? Is it just? Are
Um,
you?
uh,
Is it him by himself?
as far as you
Like,
can
are
tell,
you
it
by
is
yourself?
just as far as you can
Okay.
tell, it is just the one enforcer, the one member of Balar who is standing outside your door.
Okay.
They haven't come mob-handed.
Okay. I assume I have a peephole in my door. How is he standing? Is he prepared to take us by force, or is he expecting an actual conversation and pleasantries?
As far as you can tell, he's standing exactly the same way they stand when they walk around the slums, in that he's got his armor on, and he has a rifle slung over his shoulder, but it's resting on its sling strap. He hasn't got it
He's
actively in
prepared
his
but not
hands.
worried.
Yeah, he's not
Okay,
holding
he's
his rifle.
prepared but not. All right. Okay, I'll signal to Nets to grab whatever holdout items he has, weapons, whatever he wants to take with him, and we're just gonna go with them, and hopefully it's.
So are you just basically going
He
to tell
hasn't
me,
come by
hey, grab your
force.
stuff? This is probably work.
Yeah, grab your stuff. Yeah, grab your stuff. He hasn't come with force. He hasn't come to do any harm. It seems he's rather unprepared for a fight. So clearly, it's a business opportunity.
Okay, well,
Let's get a move on.
I grab my my light backpack, which is yet to be unpacked as I just arrived here, and I guess I'm heading out the door.
Okie dokie. So the gentleman who's collected you is called Belkira, and he's actually reasonably chatty as far as enforcers go. Once you get past the initial element of he's escorting you to visit members of the Balar, he's reasonably chatty. Like he's not particularly aggressive or forceful. He's just kind of like he seems to expect that you're going to do what he tells you to. In that he's not expecting you to go against the wishes of his employers, but he's just an employee, and don't blame him. He works here, Gov.
Yeah,
And so and so he leads
gotcha.
you to the western tower, which is the tower owned by the Balar, and he leads you in through the ground floor and down to the left hand side into what is basically a ground floor office. And sitting in the ground floor office are two people. One of them is in his early 30s, late 20s. He's rather heavy built, and he's sitting off to one side, just quite sort of happy with himself. This is our gentleman, Snarbly Wolf, or Wolfie, who's sitting in the corner. Sitting at the desk is a brick shit house of a human being. That he's approximately 6 foot tall, broad shouldered. His neck, or what little neck he has, could only possibly be described by the descriptor columnal. He's got arms like tree trunks and a massive barrel chest. And he's wearing a rather finely tailored business suit, of all things.
So, are we walking past these gentlemen, or are we being brought to sit down with them, or?
You're being brought into this office.
Okay.
So he's 6
Are there
foot tall, 6
chairs? I'm
foot
assuming
wide,
there's
with
chairs.
6 foot thick.
There are chairs. There are several chairs around the room, several chairs around the doors,
Yeah.
around the wall, around the edges of the room.
In relation to areas of authority, like this large man in the business suit, is he behind a desk, or is he off to the side, or like is it obvious that he's the one that we're here to talk to, or is it like he may be another worker with us?
He's sitting behind the desk.
Oh.
He's sitting behind the desk. He's in a reasonably well-tailored business suit with a dark blue tie. He also happens to have what appears to be some kind of semi-automatic pistol resting on the desk. But then this is the ground floor of one of the 3 corporate towers, which moderately regularly erupt into small bursts of violence as one of the groups has an argument with another.
Okay.
So the fact that he's sitting armed probably isn't that surprising.
So I guess walk up to one of the chairs on the opposite side of the desk, place my hand on the back, and not so gently throw myself into the chair. Look at this gentleman across from me and ask, well, who did you eat for breakfast?
Oh, you son of a bitch.
Well, I'm a little bit cocky. I just came off a company job. I'm fairly well off to do, and I'm looking to start my own business. These other guys are coming to me, and I think I'm hot shit. So.
The gentleman sitting behind the desk just starts laughing for a moment. He's got a big, deep bass laugh, and he chuckles away, and he looks at Mr. Nets and with quite a cheeky smirk on his face says, "Pretty much anyone I don't like."
Fair
That's
enough.
his response to who did he eat for breakfast. Pretty much anyone I don't like.
Fair enough.
He smiles and sort of nods towards Bomber, and he goes, "You would be Mr. Jonathan Bomber?"
Yep. Who's asking, though? Depending on who's asking, the answer is yes.
Depending on who's asking. Again, he has a little bit of a chuckle. He's obviously quite taken with the fact that both of you seem to have a quite witty sense of humor. He smiles and says, "My name is Anheg. I am Anheg.
Or an egg. How? Okay, A-N.
H-E-G. Anheg.
Okay.
I am one of the partners here at Balar. And we like to keep an eye on things that are going on, and that's why I have brought yourself." And he looks over at Blasto's character and raises one eyebrow, and you appear to have brought a stray with you. And you are?
I reach across the table with my slender arms, with hand open for a handshake. It's like, you can call me Nets.
And Anheg enfolds most of your hand and probably a good 2 or 3 inches of your forearm in his hand and shakes it.
I was expecting
Hello,
a different result since he had an automatic pistol on the table and thought I might be going for it, but oh, good. He just shook my hand.
And part of Hello, Mr. Nets. This gentleman in the corner is Mr. Snarblerwolf.
Wait, what?
Most
Pardon?
people. Anheg makes a pained face when you say that. literally, his brows crease and his mouth goes thin for a second, and he goes,
I'm just laughing.
Don't ask. His name is Snarby Wolf. Most people refer to him simply as Wolf. He was brought here to act as assistance for Mr. Bomber. I see we have even more assistance available. I have a job proposition for, well, all of you, to be perfectly polite. As I said, us at Blar, we like to keep an eye on things in the slums. We are aware of your previous experience in, shall we say, alternate corporate communications, Mr. Bomber, and we have a little bit of alternate communication work we would like you to take.
Okay, I'm listening. What are the chances of me getting disemboweled? Is my first question.
And Anheg just starts laughing for a moment again. His deep bass chuckle. Disemboweled? No, certainly not. Shot, maybe. Maybe missing a few fingers by the end of this. We don't know. Depends how good you are at keeping yourself discreet, shall we say?
Okay. All right, continue. I can deal with that. Every job has its dangers.
As you are aware, we have a couple of competitors here in Challenging City, and one of them is Drazny. And
I'm sorry. While he says that, I chuckle, and he's like, "City, yeah, that's funny."
the first little sign of true irritation appears on Anheg's face as you chuckle at the word city. Just a little kind of twitch on his.
Oh, so he's proud
on
of
his
this
cheeks.
place. Wow.
And he says, and unfortunately, the Drazny have started to communicate a little bit too frequently with one of our corporate enemies, shall we say. Obserlife, I believe you know them quite well, Mr. Bomber. Obserlife have started to have regular communications with Drazny, and we are mildly concerned that the Drazny might be making arrangements to remove the Balar from the equation. We are, of course, investigating this in multiple ways, but the Drazny have recently advertised for workers on some of the manufacturing centers that they run, including one particular manufacturing center that is frequently visited by representatives of Obserlife. We were wondering if you and your companion and Mr. Wolfie would like to take up a job with the Drazny.
How far away are these
I take
manufacturing facilities?
I take a quick, quiet, brisk pace to behind two clients, and I make a glare at a Blaster Toad for being such a smart ass with that first comment there.
So
I'm getting glared at from behind the wooden mask, or do you got the wooden mask off right now?
Yeah, behind the wooden mask.
I picture a handicapped guy in a wooden mask speed walking behind somebody and just standing there quietly staring at them. Is
Yep,
this
that's
somewhat
pretty much
similar?
what's just happened.
Yes. Oh crap!
A rather built guy, but still.
He's got the turd strength.
Nice.
Yeah.
Mr. Nets, or Blasto's character might not be aware of this because he's just arrived on the planet. The manufacturing facilities are travelable to via the mag rail, which is still functional in the slums.
Okay, so they're not like extraplanetary. Okay.
No, they're not extraplanetary. These are the planet-based manufacturing facilities. They use raw resources that are harvested from the planet to produce things like the lighting structures, the metal reinforced panels, the furniture and things that's used on the planet. They're general manufactories that are used to supply and support the colony.
Okay.
And Anheg is offering you the opportunity to basically double up your employment.
Okay, so sitting back from Manhag, kind of lean a little bit further back in the chair, putting my arm up in the air, and do a little bit of a wave around. It's like, well, see, yourself and our other compatriots here have a slight mass or muscular superiority over myself, you may see. So there may be an issue with getting into an terrestrial engineering job for myself. Is there something maybe maintenance related or that, or like my heavy liftings with this big old brain of mine, if you get where I'm coming from?
Anheg just kind of looks at you for a while and nods. You are a tad scrawny. However,
Tad.
you are a tad. Yeah, I mean, this guy is massive and ridiculously well built and has a gun sitting on his desk.
Yeah, and I've
And
spent
yet-
like the last 5 years in low gravity.
Yep. And yet
I'd say you're a
sitting
bit
at the desk
more than a
in-
tad.
and yet he's quite sort of like a droll, polite person. He's not threatened you or been aggressive. He's been quite droll and polite the whole time he's been there. And he kind of looks at Nets and he goes, "I'm sure the Drazni have need of someone with mechanical engineering experience. Most of the manufactories work on the basic principle of mechanized lines. So I'm sure there's work going for someone who does the lifting with his big old brain, as we put it."
I'm still leaning back a little bit, so I'm like, well, how big a problem are these Drazni guys for y'all?
There is a balance in the slums, Mr. Nets. There is a equilibrium, shall we say. And the equilibrium allows us all to live in relatively peaceful, harmonic society. Now, if the Drazni are
Okay,
making...
so the chairs we're in, I'm picturing like we're in like gangster slumlord house. Are we in like nice big old wingback chairs type idea, or are they just like you've got some chairs sitting there like wooden spindly things?
He's got quite a nice large upholstered chair. You have got basically chairs made of metal tubing.
Are they heavy? Are they
they've got-
secured in place, or are they just chairs?
They're not secured in place. They're chairs. You could pick one up if you wanted to.
Okay, so I kind of grab the front legs of mine and scoot closer to his desk, put my elbows on the desk across from him. It's like, okay, equilibrium, my ass. These guys, how would you like to change the balance of the thing? Because I got an idea. Are you willing to listen?
And Higgs just looking at you in a kind of bemused way, and just kind of nods and makes a small circle with one hand. Continue, Mr. Nets.
Okay, so I'm pointing upwards. I'm like, okay, we got these big shiny towers. Not so shiny anymore, but they would be, they could be. And you all guys got one. What if they didn't have one anymore? I'm saying, like, they must need some maintenance. And there's some tubing and fixing and electrical thingies that someone of my talents could be put to work for. How about we say a little sneakier? They're gonna need some heavy lifting as well, so Wolfman here can join us, I'm sure. If he can be a little bit less conspicuous. But yes, why don't we do this as an inside job and, work our way up through the tower, then back down through the tower with some nice improvised bang bang, and take out said tower and problem solved. Just, big picture here. I want you to see where I'm coming from. And then I sit back, kind of relaxed, open hands, like, what's your thoughts? Endow me with them.
Anik just kind of stares at you for a good probably 15 minutes without saying a word. He appears to be attempting to process something, and then just kind of smiles warmly and says, "Currently, we are more concerned with the actions of Obserlife in relation to the Drasny. The Drasny Tower, which is approximately 30 foot away from where we are sitting, were it to experience some improvised explodey-splodey, as you so eloquently put, would possibly cause a risk to our own properties. We are not in the habit or in the nature of raining shrapnel down upon the gentlemen who live within the properties we manage. We are after information, gentlemen. Now, you, of course, will be paid by the Drasny for the work you do within their facilities. And we will also pay you for the information you gather and information you bring to us. So I believe it would be a profitable arrangement for yourselves, and if you bring us useful information, a profitable arrangement for us as well.
Profits I can deal with. As I stand up, kind of over the chair, reaching out my hand to give him another handshake.
Anheg looks at your hand and looks at you, and just takes your whole hand and part of your arm back into his and shakes your hand again.
As we're shaking hands, I also just interject in there. It's like, and you know, when we're ready to think a little bigger here, there's this beautiful thing called implosive percussion that we can talk about the science behind later and maybe work something out.
And Anheg's just slightly bemused by you, and smiles, and he says, "Well, I'm glad you agree. You see, you all have interviews with the Drasny worker party who work at that particular manufacturing facility tomorrow. We happened to arrange for you to have interviews ready, just in case you agreed, of course."
An interview, eh? I kind of look over at my bag, which is now slumped at the bottom of the chair. Like, yeah, I kind of didn't bring my suit.
Anheg chuckles again, and he went, "You are a shrewd gentleman, Mr. Nets. I can see that you're going to be either be a wonderful asset or a ginormous pain in my arse."
Well, the ass part's gonna be right either way, so might as well make it work.
Oh, Mr. Nets.
I'm just gonna pipe in that he's always a pain in the ass either way, but he can be a helpful pain in the ass. Just
If you
once,
were
Sure about that?
I am sure he is a very helpful pain in the ass, but I wouldn't rather have anyone else to, you know. Actually, I don't know how he is, but I'm just assuming he's a helpful pain in the ass because he's
So is this
mooching
the
off
part
me
where
for
like
now.
we
I gotta
know
be
we're
nice.
done? Like we're gonna
I
be
think-
escorted out to
I'm
find out where we're taking interviews?
Anheg chuckles slightly when you say that you didn't bring your suit, and he says that if it's truly necessary that you require certain items to facilitate your duties for the Belar, if you go down to the under third market, simply mention that you're working for us and mention that you've been authorized to use a minor tab, and I'm sure the stall holders will be quite accommodating.
Expense card, I can work with that.
Anheg looks
Okay.
up at the Beltira who escorted you here, and he says, they can leave now before their intelligence gets them in trouble, and give them the details of their interview tomorrow on the way out. This is a quite polite dismissal from Mr. Anheg.
As I'm walking away, I've got my back turned. I just kind of raise my arm and wave to nobody in particular, as if to say bye to everybody in the room, and continue out with dude that's directing us.
And as you leave, as you start to leave, Mr. Anheg glances over at Snarby Wolf and says, "Keep an eye on those two for me, Mr. Wolf."
I wink.
very, very unsubtly, like a giant exaggerated wink, just
From behind the mask still.
from behind the mask. Hence why it has to be a giant exaggerated wink.
Oh
I
god.
like where this is
Oh
going.
no. Yup. This is gonna be fantastic. Any plans I had are suddenly gone.
and so Mr. Beltura leads you out of the tower, leads you down through the base of the tower into the basically the foyer area. It's a quite large triangular area, roughly about the size of a football pitch, which separates the three towers. Got a nice little fountain in the center that doesn't run anymore. And you can see the guards from the three different groups standing outside their respective towers, eyeing each other up nervously, because it's not uncommon for small skirmishes to occur around the tower bases. Mr. Beltira hands over a small pad with information about your interviews. On the pad, it has the details of where you have to go, who you're going to be talking to, all the questions they're going to be asking you, exactly which questions they're going to ask you specifically, and what answers they're looking for. It has small little micro dossiers on the different people who are going to be there. It also has a small note at the back in quite rough handwriting that states that the three gentlemen that Galar are sending will be the only people attending interviews that day.